And now, the award-winning Simply Youth Ministry podcast.
And here we go.
With Doug Fields and friends.
Now we're in. 1, 2, 3.
Hey! You guys leave me hanging. Hey, okay.
Hey, everybody. Doug Fields here with
Wow.
Josh Griffin
Hey.
and Matt McGill, and Jana is still on maternity leave,
Still
although I
gone.
was in a meeting with her yesterday because we're opening the student building, and she
Yeah.
came to do some
I heard she
fairly-
was whining a little bit, saying that she shouldn't have been at the meeting.
No, she wasn't.
That's what I heard.
No,
Oh,
but she
boy.
did nurse at the meeting.
That's,
It was awesome.
That's gross.
And like we've always said, we try to come in this room, we try not to talk at all
Yes.
because we want to save stuff for the show. But we start talking a little bit before the show, which is going to be a shorter show because I have a meeting that I have to run off to that I can't. I mean, I'm going to be a little bit late to it, but I shouldn't be too late since it's
No,
at
since
my
it's-
boss's house.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know you were having a meeting at my house.
But we were talking a little bit, and Matt said, for those of you who are regulars, Matt just realized he saw a photo of himself, and
who's got their phone on now?
no, I just
Phony
podcast
Chickerson?
time.
Yep.
Like that does a lot of help for your Twitter friends. Podcast time. You need to give them the ustream.bliptv.simply/insider.outsideallday.com.
Much better than.
I'm all about Web 3.0, and you don't have to do that.
So
People
Matt,
just know where to
Matt
go.
said he saw a
If you
photo
don't
of
know,
himself
screw
holding up a camera,
Yeah.
and that he realized that he was heavy.
Oh,
But he really
gosh,
didn't say
it was
heavy.
so
He
fun.
said
Yeah,
fat.
I was fat.
I don't really
Yeah.
like to call you fat.
no, you don't. You like to say other things that are unmentionable.
Yeah. But anyway.
So what are you going to do about it? What's the plan here? And when I say you, I mean us. Because
Hey.
we could all stand to lose a few pounds.
Especially Doug.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal.
Well,
I'm thinking.
He just carries his weight differently than other people.
Is it all in my chin? Come on.
We carry it here.
Gosh, there's certain things.
He
that-
carries it here.
In my arm.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
But
I'm
one of
sorry.
our faithful Simply Youth Ministry guys who follows all of us on Twitter,
Yeah.
and I actually follow him,
Yeah.
is Matthew McNutt, who was like the
Biggest Loser.
third place
Yeah.
champion on The Biggest,
Biggest loser a couple seasons ago. He's the man.
Was he third place?
Should we?
How did he
I
get-
don't know.
No, he got
wasn't
kicked
third.
off, but he was like the best
Then
of
he
the
came
ones that
back.
came back or
Yeah.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So should we make him our personal coach and he prescribes our diet
I
for
hear
us
on his
and the whole
blog
bit?
he's got all sorts of like weight tips.
But you know what? Here's a guy who, dude,
Yeah,
he
he
was
was
way
huge,
bigger
yeah.
than you.
Yeah.
He was humongous, and he lost like 200 pounds. And I
That's
twittered
awesome.
something about, I started working out, and I
Yeah.
twittered something about using pink weights, and he wrote me back,
think
and then
that's
I
very
did
funny.
something about incline, which I found, and he wrote back.
yeah.
It was very serious, like, yes, I never work out without using the incline 2-point, whatever. But maybe we ought to call Matthew McNutt and get him to be your personal coach. When you're ready.
That'd be great.
When
Let's
you're
go
ready.
for it.
Let's
I
see a
don't-
few more photos.
I don't think we. Yeah. I think we just need to get started.
Okay.
Okay, well let's do it. What are we having for lunch today?
Do you need my
Soup
help?
Plantation.
Oh.
Do you need my help?
Ooh, I didn't turn it off.
How would you like us to help you? How would you like just Josh and I?
Yeah.
And then we'll involve our podcast friends. How would you like? How could we help you as friends and brothers?
Just stop sending me burritos in the mail. No, just kidding.
No more lunch invitations.
No, but I was at this
To
meeting
buffets.
yesterday, and these guys are all so serious, and I was trying to.
What kind of meeting? It's like
This is a meeting about there's a church down south of us, whatever 70 miles away that they've defaulted on their loan. They haven't paid for a year, and so then we might buy their property.
And
so we're
do one of
talking
our
about-
regionals
and do
that
one of
you're
our
in charge of,
and do
since
one of
you're
our
the future of
regional
our church.
campuses
And
at
Doug's
this
boss.
at this location, and so there's like the whole room is old guys, and they all know stuff about money, like
Yeah.
it's our money
Yeah,
people and their
sure.
money lenders.
Yeah.
So I'm in there, and basically the only reason I'm there is to answer the question: can we fill this campus with people?
Yeah.
And it's super far away, and
Which is a money question because how can you pay for it?
oh yeah, is it
part of what
viable?
they're saying,
Is it a
sure.
viable option?
But you're there because you're in charge of all of our regional campuses.
Yeah,
so-
yeah, and there needs to be,
And was
at
this
least
your
one
idea
of the
to buy this
pastors in the
property?
room. No.
Cool,
I
it
mean,
came up
it just
somewhere.
came up. We've heard about it, and so I made some joke about hey, I'm not really familiar with leases and I used some of the terms that they were using, but I can't even remember. I said,
Fiscal
when it comes to
responsibility.
expertise, I am great with burritos, which is a great line,
Yeah.
but it didn't really work.
Didn't
It
work
didn't
with
fly?
us.
In
No,
that
it didn't
room?
fly. It didn't
Oh.
fly at all. But I just powered through it, kept talking. It didn't really
Yeah.
bother me at all.
So at the end of the day, Are we going to have a church filled with people in burritos?
To me,
Hopefully.
the end of the day is: are you ready to take that Slim Jim out of your
Oh.
artery?
I don't know. He and
Matt-
I have become such good friends.
Matt and his bacon wrapped heart.
All right.
Wait, that's it? We're just going to leave?
Hey,
now?
I
That's
can
the end
tell
of the
he doesn't
story?
want to.
Okay.
Well, yeah, what am I supposed to do? Well, yeah, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna-
You know
I'm
what,
not like
Josh?
that.
When he's ready to say, "Hey, would you guys walk with me in the morning
Yeah.
and get up and go for a jog?" or-
Exactly.
then you and I will
We
will
will
be there in a
rally.
heartbeat.
Yes.
I've
That's
offered that
One very,
thousands of times over the years.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Please
Yeah.
keep my name anonymous. I was listening last night to episodes
No problem,
58,
Bob.
59, and 61.
We'll just call
So
him Jim.
they skipped 60.
Oh.
His loss. or her
58,
loss.
59,
Or her.
61. And
I
constantly
don't know.
found myself getting a little misty. I'm currently going through a lot of painful discernment in my current position and found it simply amazing that 3 old episodes in a row ministered to me in ways I
One in a
needed to
row.
hear. So I wanted to thank you guys for something you said back then because it's still bearing fruit now. I appreciate your willingness to do this podcast and for the genuine concern each of you has for hurting youth workers. Thank you so much. What an amazing God we serve. Isn't that good news to
It's
start with?
You are
news.
welcome.
I'm
And
not
that is very
surprised at all.
humbling.
When you
Simply
speak the
amazing.
truth,
There's
'cause-
a new resource for Andy to think about right there.
This is we have a super series called Simply Amazing.
We do?
Yeah,
Oh,
don't we?
wow.
Yeah.
Well, there you
Oh,
go.
there you go.
You win that free.
It's like a
Just kidding. You don't.
3-week on the life of Jesus. Yeah.
That's funny.
Simply
This
amazing
episode-
I'm not
podcast.
surprised that something like this is happening. When you speak the truth, it's just like God's word doesn't return void. Waters, everything. It's great.
So our podcast will never return void. Is that what you're saying?
Hey, we
Well,
got
my parts of the podcast.
our,
Oh, okay.
our
Great.
buddy Danny Bowers, who's a PDYM mentor and a friend of
Danny.
ours. We talked last week about encouraging team members.
Mhm.
And so he just wrote in an idea. One idea
All right.
we do is take comments from students in their small group leaders, from their small group, and we take their comments, we put them on paper, take a picture of the students, and create a card. It's from the students, but we initiate it. It helps model to the students what appreciation can look like, and they can catch on and initiate on their own.
That's cool.
Good idea.
Cool.
Thank
Good
you for
idea.
that, BB.
What's the difference between from and initiate? It's from the students, but we initiate it. I don't know. I guess we
Well-
need to talk about that.
Initiated. It wouldn't happen if it wasn't initiated by the
Leadership.
So
youth
I would
pastor
think
there.
that's kind of from. So it's from the youth pastor.
Yeah, it
Just
could be.
language.
I'll
Yeah.
give you his phone number if you want to talk to him about it.
Totally.
All right. This is from Phil Reibel, Cypress Wesleyan Church, Galloway, Ohio.
Hi, Phil.
Um,
Isn't that
he,
a kind of horse?
he is a volunteer,
A ribald?
and he's been doing youth ministry. This is 6th year as a volunteer, and as he gets to know more students,
Okay.
he's invited to more parties, and specifically this one is about graduation gifts. And he
Good
says,
question. Very timely.
yeah, what do you guys do for graduating students?
0.
Our church will
What?
recognize them at the services in a week or two.
That's nice.
And each will get a gift from the church youth group. But on an individual level, what do you do for gifts for graduating students?
See,
Do
I
you have
knew
a
he was talking
set
about that.
amount
No.
that you spend on them? Or do you go the Matt route and their gift is having you attend their party?
Exactly. Why even call in and answer that
Oh,
question?
That's awesome. You know the answer.
See, I knew he was talking about
His word.
individuals, not what the church does. I don't know how I knew that.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
you're
Well,
wise.
Can we
You're
do
wise.
both?
Thank
Can we answer both? How does the church handle it? And how do you handle it as a youth pastor?
Well,
No.
church can figure out how they handle it themselves. I think
Fair
he's
enough.
saying as a volunteer when I go, I would take a card. I would take a card and write a letter. That's all you need to do. I tell the kids in our youth ministry, Father's Day, Mother's Day, save your $12 that you're going to buy a cheesy little poem or a picture frame and write your parents a letter, and they will value it much more than they would a little trinket or gift.
Yeah.
The power of words is so strong, and if you want to buy a card, graduation card, great. If you want to just write up a letter that's personalized, points to a memory or an experience that you remember about them, a character quality, something like that. What a great gift that would be. A photo with a story.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
you initiate that card. Who's it from?
Danny Bowers.
Danny Powers. Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Oh,
no,
that's
that's a great
cool.
idea. That's a great idea.
Anything else?
No,
in addition
really,
to that?
no.
Okay.
No, I once went to a graduation party totally underdressed. Have we talked about this?
No, I'm in.
Years ago in Aliso Niguel High School, went to a graduation party, and I'm like, dude, I hang out with these guys all the time. I wore t-shirts. Before I was married, wore a t-shirt, cut off sweats, and I had a hole in the shirt. And not only this, but I had done my own laundry at that point in my life, and
So
I
it
had
was
let
slightly
it.
pink.
No, I let it sit in the laundry washer too
smell
long,
a little bit.
and so it had a little mildew that the dryer didn't get out.
Mm-hmm.
So Misha's like, "You're wearing that?" And I'm like, "Mish, go back to Newport Beach. This is great." So we show up to the party. Everybody's dressed super nice, and it was one of the few times that I felt like a moron
You were
for how I was
really
dressed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
And it's not like you could borrow a shirt from the kid because he's probably 180.
well, and plus it was a
190.
girl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
That's
was
even
not-
more awkward.
But it was, and so I'm nervous, so I sweat, and sweat activates the mildew.
Oh, my
and it smelled
goodness.
so horrible.
So you are a
And,
sweaty,
parents-
mildewy,
and
underdressed man.
everyone's walking up to me.
Heavy man.
Fat. Everyone's walking
With a
up to me
bacon
and
wrap
it's
turkey.
like, oh, you're the pastor. Thank you so much for,
Oh,
all this."
no.
It was horrible. How's the phone?
Good.
Did you not turn
Partington.
your ringer off? Who's
Katie
ringer keeps
Partington.
going off?
Oh, I don't know. I'll turn it off. I'm not
Unbelievable.
even listening to it because I'm so focused on the podcast.
You are doing a good job.
Well, that was not bad. Nice
you.
story.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good story.
Thank you for that.
So the
We
moral
like
of
to
the story
share failure
is
stories here
dress
at
up.
Saddleback Church podcast, Simple
Yeah.
Youth Ministry.
saving you time to simplify your
Simplify.
ministry.
Yeah, whenever
Just
whenever
enough youth ministry so you don't feel guilty for listening.
whenever we write a note to senior, we like to focus on a character trait or a quality about them that really stands out. So it gives you some kind of something to write about, and it seemed to be really
Yeah,
nice.
what a great
Seemed
gift that
like
is.
it.
And if you're really organized, you'll just keep those all categorized and print them out each year.
Yeah. And
And hope you don't
for
give it
the
to a brother
younger-
or a sister
For the
who got it the
younger
year
youth
before.
worker, you remember when we used to take a van and we would just hit? Were you on
Different
staff
graduations?
then when we would do that?
No.
Oh,
No. Were you on staff when Doug Elliott used to rent a $9 million camera lens
to take
to
pictures?
take pictures?
No.
He was so great.
Yes, I was on staff. But here's what I would do. There was times where there were multiple graduations going on, so you drive to Irvine High School, and you're there at the front as they walk in, high five, and they're like, "I can't believe you came," but I didn't see you afterwards because I wasn't there because we shot over to another one, got there at the very end. It
Yep.
was all about making an appearance.
That's it.
Yeah, those days, you didn't give me enough coaching, I don't think, because there was another time at Santa Margarita graduation that each kid only got like 6 tickets because it was so packed, and I got one
Yeah.
for Wogamuth, and they invited us to this dinner afterwards.
Yeah.
And I just did the normal Fields thing. I'm like,
Drop
we don't
in.
need to be on time. We could show up late, so we're
Huh.
like an hour late
To the graduation.
to the graduation dinner.
Oh.
And it was like 8 of us at Ilford, super nice Italian restaurant.
Oh, yeah, well, we didn't do the Fields thing. No, the Fields thing would have been to ask, is this a dinner? Like, should we be there on time? Is this a come as you want? And
Oh, you can't be late for dinner.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't have enough coaching.
I know, I have failed
can
you in many
only-
ways.
You can only fix so many flaws.
This is from an overworked and underpaid youth worker in Joplin, Missouri.
You're not underpaid.
You're not overworked.
You might be overworked.
How do I get
Just
my
kidding, just
adult
kidding.
leaders to step up and be leaders? I have 8 adult leaders. They all want to show up to be in the youth service, but I really have to push them every week to be relational with our students. I'm always catching them just hanging out, talking to each other, and I'll go break it up, and minutes later they're back in their huddle. I don't know if my leadership is weak or these people are just jerks. It says, insert Matt Dig here. I hear you guys
Chortle.
tell stories of these great volunteers and great small group leaders who take initiative to love the students, and I can't get mine to budge. We have a youth ministry of about 30 or 40 students, and I know I can't possibly keep up with all of them. I know that it's my fault, and it started off this way, and I know that it needs to change. Matt, once again, make a dig. What can I do to change this already vicious cycle? How can I help my
sounds like
leaders
he knows
develop a
everything.
heart for these students? I love it that they just, when they're writing it, they're thinking through,
How
okay,
is-
when is Matt
yeah,
going to rip
yeah.
me?
To be known is to be
To
loved.
be known is to be
Mhm.
loved.
You are known.
This is
Borrow
an
this for a
interesting
second.
pen. I
Um,
think you give each volunteer a statue of an eagle. Because nothing says leadership like an eagle.
to soar like an eagle.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
right.
Well,
Piercing eyes.
let's pause for
strong
just a
talons.
second when he says, I hear you guys tell stories of great volunteers and small group leaders all
We
the time.
had
We need
lots.
to come
Okay,
clean.
let's-
We made those up.
Oh gosh, Matt.
Sorry, that got me.
Golly.
I'm sorry.
That
You
pierced-
surprised me on that one. That doesn't happen very often.
That pierced my ears.
Oh.
I feel sorry. Now,
Someone-
Chris, can we edit that out at all?
No,
Yeah.
no,
Someone-
that's part of the magic.
Someone
No,
just
it's not.
drove
It's
off the
part
road.
of the death. Guys
Someone
falling
just-
off treadmills
Yeah.
and driving.
One person who belongs in the Special Olympics that happened to me.
Wow.
Anyway.
All right. So anyhow, we're talking about volunteers all the time.
But here's what we need. People have to realize that
They have to. That's kind of definitive.
it should. That's a good.
that was
funny.
nice. Very.
You know what? When you interrupt and it's funny, it works.
It's
when
worth
it
it.
interrupts and it's not, which is 75 to 90% of the time.
Okay.
But lottery, you won it today.
Thank you.
What people should realize,
Could perhaps maybe.
yeah, is that, say for example, the reference that we're talking about at Saddleback, I've been there for going on 16 years.
All right.
So the volunteers today are a lot different than the volunteers were in 1992.
Right.
Now, I understand what he's saying about you go up and you break it up and the whole bit. This is a piece where you've got to, I think you pause your leadership training at some point. June coming up, time for summer, fall, and say, hey, gang, I just got to be honest with you. I think I have failed you as a leader. And take all the blame right there.
Right.
Because I don't think that I've made it clear enough. And then because I haven't made it clear enough, each week I feel like I have to be mom babysitter to you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start this new year off, this summer off, this fall. We're going to start it off with a new job description. Here's what I need you to do.
Right.
When 10 minutes before the program, during the program, 20 minutes after the program, I just don't want us talking to each other. I want us hanging with kids, stuff like that. Now, after everybody leaves, let's all go to Starbucks and you
Right.
can buy, and we can hang and talk. But when you're here for that 90 minutes, and so take the blame yourself. Start there and take the blame and say,
And affirm what's good about that. What's good about that is they do get along and
They
do
like
like
each other, that's
and
right.
And that's a great thing.
yeah, yeah.
Just not the right time.
But, and also know when we're talking about volunteers, so even if we let's say we got 8 volunteers, 2 of them are going to be all-stars, 4 of them are going to be good, and 2 are going to be knuckleheads.
Right.
Well,
So-
or they could all be knuckleheads.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
possible.
That is true. But eventually, even
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
even
Keep
when
on it.
you've trained them and you've laid out your
Oh, yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
not all of your leaders are going to be all-stars. So when you hear stories of us talking about all-star leaders, we have is equally many stories of
Yeah,
knucklehead.
we're only talking about the good ones
yeah.
Totally.
until
Totally.
a good centering conversation like today.
But I love his attitude. You know, what can I do to change this already vicious cycle? How can I help my leaders develop a heart for these students?
Yeah.
You know, you got to teach it, repeat it,
Right.
model it, encourage it, highlight it. Another way of encouraging. From
I can see the
initiated.
notes right now that you're reading from. I just can't remember the next ones.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Monitor the purpose.
Oh, it's different. That's about purposes.
I know, but it's the same list. I
No,
think.
it's not.
Similar.
It's just synapse, top thinking.
What part of your
What would
answer?
you do, Josh?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting to me is I've actually encountered a little bit of this with my team and with volunteers.
Yep.
They kind of just do the standard thing where they're standing in the back, arms folded, or sitting in a chair, not engaged with students.
Not all of them.
Not all of them,
Right.
but some, and it really gets to me because I'm like, we're
Yeah,
missing the
none
whole
of the ones
reason.
that are listening to this podcast are doing
No,
that.
if they're listening to the show, they're obviously they got their
They're
act together.
excellent, yes.
Good for you. But the ones that aren't listening to the show, no. So I think this is something that we have to continually monitor. And I actually sat down with the team, the office team, this week and said there's 2 things that really, really make me sad. One is when we're not on time for things because I think that just hurts youth ministry and hurts our reputation. 2,
When puppies die.
it's when we don't take advantage of opportunities to have relational ministry. And I think there's 2 things that happen. One is we're not prepared for the weekend, so we're scrambling last minute, like, I got to get the music and the sound and the iPod and the band, and because we're not prepared. Or 2, we haven't seen our friends in a while, we haven't caught up on the weekend,
30-minute rule halfway.
and so we hang out and we talk with adults instead of talking with students and being relational. So just my way of encouraging them as we head in, especially we're opening up a new building.
Yeah.
More than ever, we need to be relational. So it was just a quick sit down at the top of the meeting saying these 2 things bum me out. Let's or these two things make me happy is actually how I taught it when we work with
That's
students.
true.
And I said, and the opposite's also true. When we don't do these, they bum me out.
Now-
And people got the message, hey, and it's on our program sheet, it's on our runtime, it's in
Yeah.
our run through, it's in our rehearsals, in our language. We push this all the time because we have a tendency, like this church, to go right back to that arms folded, back of the room volunteers too. We fight it every week. We're fighting the same battle.
Well,
that they
because,
are.
be honest, and this is one of the things that this overworked, underpaid youth worker in Joplin can say, when you're admitting your fault as a leader by not instilling a vision deep enough, say, hey, I realize, identify with the pain it is to talk with kids. That sometimes, you go up to a kid,
Absolutely.
a freshman who doesn't want to talk, hey, how's it going? How's your week? Okay, well, have a good night.
All right.
They're just done talking. They got 3-word
Exactly.
vocabulary, and they don't. So admit that and say, you guys, I realize it is so difficult. So here, if you find yourself in that situation, why don't 2 of you go talk to that guy?
Right.
Engage or pull another kid in there, and so acknowledge that it's difficult, admit your failure, and then set it straight. And one of the things that I learned this a long time ago, but when I was moderating last week at the conference
Yeah.
at our church.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we had a
Purpose
conference at
Driven
our
Network
church,
Summit.
and there was like 5 people on a panel, and I was moderating this panel for Rick Warren, and there would be 5 pastors, whatever. And I was realizing as I was asking them questions that it was total top-down leadership. The 5 guys that talked about evangelism. The reason that their
Yeah.
church was evangelistic because they were bleeding it.
They are. Yeah.
It was their value, and therefore they preached on it, they taught it, they reminded them, they challenged, they didn't see it as optional. They just went after it. And it is that, whatever those values you've got,
Yeah.
you got to drive
Yeah.
them and keep driving them, and eventually your people will get them.
Yeah, it has to be modeled to your volunteers and has to be reminded to your volunteers. Yeah. It's a continual battle.
Yes, it is.
I agree.
All right.
So I'm not sure the next one, huh?
Well, no, I'm just not going
You're
in
just
any.
kind of perusing.
Yeah, perusing.
We prepped the show, got the
Jeff-
podcast emails on time.
Jeff Turp.
Off
Jeff,
your personal printer.
Off my personal printer.
I did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. That was
the
perfect.
only way. I had
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too bad
No.
you could be emailing to him.
But you
Um,
have emails this week.
I'm
And by the
thrilled.
way, we got a ton of emails last
Yeah, we
week.
did.
I didn't even print all of them. There's so
Oh, you
many.
didn't?
So there's more to come.
Okay, well-
But don't forget to write us at podcast@simpleyouthministry.com and ask your questions. But I was
Yeah.
really pleased. 13
And you know
days
what?
without a show gave us a ton of questions.
Yeah, and Kathy and I, because of my pastor, our pastor,
Yeah.
called this meeting with a few of us at his house today, and so we had to change our time, which
Right.
thank you for being flexible to adjust. But Kathy and I couldn't
Can't
do
do
our
yours.
show, so.
Right.
But there's
Me and you
been
could do
a
a
bunch of,
marriage podcast
we could do a
together.
marriage podcast. A bunch of people wrote in, and when I
Basically
say a
been
bunch,
married.
I've got 3, and
Three.
you didn't
That
print
is a
them all.
bunch. And there's more marriage and youth ministry ones I didn't print too.
But these were all questions about the feed of marriage and youth ministry.
Oh.
They're like, Tyler from Illinois says, "We're Marriage and Ministry podcast going to be put on the iTunes feeds or just Blip TV?" Mike McGarry, I've got a subscription to the PDYM podcast, and they automatically download fine, but I've only gotten one marriage podcast. Micah Patterson, can't find the Marriage and Family podcast in iTunes. Is it there, or am I just stupid and I can't find it? So we
it is.
got these.
You're
Right.
probably stupid.
No, we got these, and what's happening? I just talked to Chris, who's
Good.
our tech genius, and we are there. You can get them online on the Simply Youth Ministry site.
Yep.
We're having some feed problems with iTunes. Kathy and I are probably going to do 2 shows next week,
Cool.
and so we'll have 5 on iTunes, and then we'll make it a part of a
Then we'll
weekly
go.
deal.
Cool. Yeah, I saw them dropped into the feed of this show. So if you're listening to this show, you can grab a marriage podcast in the feed here too. Got any good
Jeff,
questions on there? Polls from the live show, anything?
Everybody's wondering why Matt keeps hitting his book on the table. That's all they're
why,
Oh.
so people in the live podcast are wondering why Matt's hitting his book on it. What is that book you got
I'm
there?
not hitting it on the table. I'm hitting it on my fingers.
Oh, hello, you.
Hello, you.
It's a new book called Refuel, an uncomplicated guide to connecting with God by a guy
wrote
named
it?
Doug.
Oh.
Doug.
Yeah,
I can't
it's
pronounce
not
it.
really a book yet. It's more
It's a
of
booklet.
It's a
It's a baby
It's
book.
a very large pamphlet.
It's a
It's a track. for
Should
Should
people
we
who
read
like
the
to
about
read.
the author?
No.
Yes.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
Oh.
It is Thomas Nelson is coming out with it next year, January, and this is just the first like rough draft.
I don't like how it ends. It just says Doug with his wife Kathy have three children.
It's all just that was probably pulled off the website and they put it
How
on
come it
there.
doesn't say, and he has a really good friend named Matt?
Yeah, and
Who is just finding out that he's large.
he has a bacon wrapped heart with Slim Jims for veins.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, I
Okay.
got these. I
So,
got these in the mail to give
advanced
to
copies?
Well, they're unedited and
Reader's copy, huh?
They're just like read it, give me feedback, that type of thing. I thought it was very classy that Thomas
I'll read
Nelson
it this weekend.
kind of bound it into a book.
Oh, I can't wait to read it.
That's an hour read.
Yep.
Don't you think?
Hour. Yep.
It's only got 3 of your books in the front.
I know.
I want to know if you're going to put any of these out on eBay.
Oh, how funny!
That's a great
The
idea.
advanced author. I don't think that's ethical. It just depends how much.
Well,
we can
they're
make
worth
off-
$12.99. Hardcovers worth
Hardcover,
$12.99.
$12.99. That's an
Wow.
inexpensive
Just
book.
email
For a
the file.
hardcover. That's not bad.
Yeah, yeah.
But this little bad boy.
How's
yeah.
our Helping Hurting Youth Worker Fund going? Who
Yeah.
cares? We don't care. We'll get to
Yeah,
that.
focus.
next.
Here we go.
Focus.
Here we go.
We-
Yeah, questions.
Content.
I need a new question for Better Than, More Than.
Oh, I got a lot of questions.
You know that I linked to you yesterday.
McGill.
You're probably traffic's coming through the roof today. Because of morethandodgeball.com. Anybody?
Hey, my super sweet website, I had 40 hits yesterday.
Hey,
On
so-
Hakma?
Oh, no.
I know. I it's a little bit.
That hurts a little
a
bit.
little hurt right there in your
Well,
face.
you're educated. So
on Hokeman.com, there's a link to much better than dodgeball.com.
Right.
Here's my problem with your website, which I actually
I'd like to hear this.
It's blue. It's very difficult to look at.
That's true. Blue and black. Hokma is.
Yeah, it's not a user friendly. It's very difficult to read.
It's cool looking though. But
Just between me and you, Josh.
I'll be honest, like compared to Josh's, you click on Josh's, boom, it's easy to read more than dodgeball.com.
But in his defense, there is a trend going back to dark now. So
Well,
white backgrounds
and
on
I'm
everything.
always
Matt's
on
all about
the
trends.
edge
You're
of
on the
trend.
edge. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
it's you know what? If you don't want people to read it, it's fine. It looks pretty.
I just like clean and bright. So.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Chris, is it hard to read? He doesn't think so.
He thinks so.
You know what? Can you send me a link though of more widgetized,
Different
yeah,
colors that maybe they could
widgetized.
use.
Yeah.
How about a yellow font on a
You
white
also-
background?
You got to realize that too. You also had radio keratotomy back when they were doing it with pieces of glass,
Yeah.
and so I think that's where.
Are you saying my eyes are bad?
I was
You
going to
of-
say, what is
you
radio
of all
cartoon?
people
Oh,
saying
wow.
my eyes
You've
are bad?
got bad eyes.
Do
Bad
you ever have
ears,
LASIK done? You
bad
could-
logic
would that help?
mechanisms.
I had. What would that help? I'm fine. I got better eyesight than both you guys.
Oh.
Well,
You have,
definitely
like, not
McGill.
soar
Like an
like
eagle.
You're the big
Okay, let's
All
keep
right,
going.
no questions?
Jeff
No polls?
Terpstra from
Hi, Jeff.
swirling
Kissimmee, Florida.
I've heard
No,
of Kissimmee.
thank you.
We've
Jeff.
been to Kissimmee before.
Really?
Did we?
Yeah, we wrestled alligators. I think the podcast, Greg, got a question for you. In your opinion, how important is formal education in youth ministry?
Wow.
I have a bachelor's degree in youth and family ministry from Florida Christian College, and after graduation, I went straight into full-time position. I've been at the church for 2 years, and I love it. I don't want to leave the church, but I also want to further my education. How important is the seminary education in youth ministry?
That's a great question.
Well, considering I'm the only one here who's gone to seminary.
Yeah, not very
I've
important
got
apparently.
26 units.
You've got 26 units?
Well, one of the classes I flunked.
I've got 8.
8?
8.
Good
And
job.
my undergraduate degree is actually in business management. So I went to Bible college, got a ton of Bible credits and all that. But yeah,
Yeah.
business management degree, which I just wrote an article for Simply. It'll come out sometime in the next couple weeks called Business Management Degree in Youth Ministry.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll link
So-
to it on hokma.com.
And you'll
just
get
'cause I-
about 40 new hits.
I can't wait. I just was surprised by the number of times that you need
Of those
business
40, they're all
stuff,
coming
budgets.
from your
yeah.
site already.
Yeah, they're just coming back to mine. I was just amazed at the number of times that a business degree is very helpful in a church setting. So I just thought it would be an interesting take on youth ministry. But that's not
Yeah,
the
but I
question
think
he's
the way
asking.
you're wired, Josh, is you could have got a degree in anything.
Right.
And you know, I'm not sure that business degree changed you much as a leader. I mean, I think you have a business sense to you, but You're just a very intuitive leader, and you understand people well, and you can't teach that in school.
Well, and that's actually why I got into youth ministry. The dean of men said, "Why are you in business? That's stupid. You need to be a youth pastor." And I was like, "What?" So I immediately dove in, grabbed a few more classes in that direction, and still got my business degree. But yeah,
I think it depends on what you want to get out of it. Like I took as few ministry classes as possible. It's probably obvious, but because I just figured I'd learn ministry while I was doing ministry, and so I wanted to take Bible classes in college because I knew that once I started ministry, there wasn't going to be you weren't going to sit down and study a passage for 3 weeks in a row.
Because you knew that, or people in your life told you that?
Well, I knew that because I was told that by the great and mighty Doug Fields.
Who didn't really coach you well to go to graduations.
you were like,
Exactly.
Well, I
He
looked
coached
at,
me in what I should take.
I
but
looked at some of the heroes in the youth ministry world that I would say they have really influenced me significantly, and not all, but most, for whatever it's worth, have a graduate degree, a seminary degree, in addition to whatever they had undergrad.
Yeah.
So for whatever that's worth, the people that are influencing me the most do.
Yeah.
So
And is there a movement of people saying, has it always been said that seminary doesn't really help you for
the
for
Apostle
church?
Paul didn't have a seminary degree.
He sure did. What are you talking about?
I'm kidding, kind of.
Well, these guys want to know. They're saying, hey, what is it? What do you guys feel is the main things that pastors need to have?
The
What
live-
kind of schooling?
Our live audience is
Totally.
asking. And by the way, Andy's in Hawaii. Saw him this morning. So
lovely.
Nadeem is
Oh.
live with Nadeem's doing a very good job with our
Nadeem,
live group.
Turn the camera on.
Well, I think Jeff's last question here, how important is a seminary education in youth ministry? I would say, Jeff, I don't think it's very important. Now, some of my friends who teach youth ministry at seminary would totally disagree with me. But I
They've
think
got
a
conflicting
seminary,
interests.
well, I think a seminary education is vitally important. If depending, if you're going to go a denominational route,
Right.
where, for example, if you're in a Presbyterian or Southern Baptist Church or different, what'd you do?
I just hit my knee.
There's a big post under this table, by the way.
Oh, I think I need a patella removal. Oh, sorry. I couldn't hold that one back.
If you want to be in a church, if you want to be in a denomination, and you want some credibility, like
Absolutely.
at Saddleback right now,
Yeah.
the keepers of the guard, you Rick Warren, Glenn Cruin, they're all seminary guys,
Absolutely.
and so they're going to value that. So when I came in with an MDiv, that was a big deal to them. Now,
Absolutely.
I've hired a ton of people that don't have seminary degrees, and they've run raised through the rank.
Right.
But when we were a smaller church, a seminary degree was real important.
Well, and a lot
Yeah.
of churches don't even hire now without that.
Yeah,
So-
but a lot do.
Right, right. Fair enough, fair
After
enough.
your years at Saddleback, you could go anywhere in the country and lead a youth ministry without a seminary degree. Now, for me,
Maybe you should.
a seminary
You
degree.
know, I'm like, wait, am I supposed to? Or
a
did I-
seminary degree. Yeah, that's why I'm meeting at Rick's house a
Yeah, I
little
was
later.
going to say, whoa,
Gotta
subtle.
figure out that exit plan.
Off that
For
interim
me,
title back
it
on.
was a credibility deal. It was deeper learning. But I think sometimes classes in youth ministry are overrated. Here's my if. If the person is not in the trenches. So, for example, if you're going to Fuller Seminary and you're getting great lectures by Chap Clark, who I think is a great thinker in youth ministry, but you're not doing anything in youth ministry, you're taking all that education in a vacuum. There are some people,
I know, but do you have to still be doing it to teach it?
Do you think your
I mean, does
credibility
that
of a
coach-
teacher?
I think it gives you a different angle to, if I came in and taught at Chap's class right now at Fuller, I would teach it much different than Chap. Chap is,
Well, but there's lots of
he's
reasons
smarter
for
than
that.
me, he's more well-read, but Chap also hasn't worked in the church for 25 years, so we would have a nice balance. But I read I'm not going to mention the name of the book, I read a youth ministry book recently. This guy, young guy, which I have nothing against young guys writing, but that's great.
Yeah.
But he was taking shots at some people who have been in the trenches doing it a long time, myself included. And this guy's, it was all based on seminary research. Nothing
Okay,
based
no
on
arguments there.
practicality.
I have no arguments from you there. But, okay, and you're talking about most of the time. You're not talking about all of the time.
In terms of what?
In terms of most of the teachers who are teaching youth ministry, if they're not in the trenches, that's not a good thing.
No, I'm not saying that. There are guys that, Richard Ross, Wes Black, I'm forgetting his name. He was a great youth where he was at a church for many, many years at Southwestern Seminary in Dallas. I mean, these guys, long-term in the trenches youth workers.
Right.
But also PhDs, brilliant, much smarter than I'll ever be.
Right.
They have a nice combination. Chap, who I think is one of the smartest guys I know, did Young Life for 15, 20. Now that's a different angle. That's parachurch.
Right.
Yeah.
But he's a brilliant guy. So the guys that are teaching, Alan Jackson at New Orleans Seminary, longtime youth worker,
Great
really
country
smart.
So, but what are you saying? If they're not in the trenches?
No, I'm
it's
not saying
as
the
good as
teacher.
class?
No. I'm saying the student. So, for example, what I was going
Mm-hmm,
for earlier, let's say Joe student is sitting in Chap Clark's class
Right.
at Fuller.
Right.
And Joe is getting incredible lectures, but he's not in the trenches. Joe
isn't in the trenches.
That's right. That
So
Joe
he's not
isn't
testing it out.
He's not.
looking
He's
for
not
it, learning
getting
it,
any.
experiencing
It's all notebook, laptop,
Theory.
good theory.
Yeah.
That's a great point. But he's not rubbing shoulders with people. He's not putting it
Yeah.
in testing in a
seeing,
youth group.
seeing the politics of a church,
Well, I just
feeling
think
all that.
I think it's a different deal. Now, I'm saying to somebody, if they went to seminary and did ministry at the same time and got the context, but that's just the only reason I'm biased
Right.
about that. That's how I did it. I went to seminary and did
Right.
ministry at the same time. Now, you can have other people who are maybe more right, and they went, you know what? No, I went and got a Bible degree and took all that learning and then went into the trenches.
Well,
And some
that's
people
what I'm
started-
saying. But I'm saying it depends on your goals. I'm saying it depends on. And so I would agree with what you did because that's what you wanted to do and it's great for you. I think that's great. Me, I wanted when I studied Hebrew, I wanted to spend 6 hours a day practicing Hebrew stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I wanted to do.
But you hadn't had any experience in the ministry at that point.
Just at the summers.
Yeah, so your context of life was school. When I
Totally,
went to
100%.
college, I went straight from high school into youth ministry.
Right.
So I had a different context, so that drove my educational experience.
And different needs, what you wanted to get out of it.
Well, now I look back, and it would have been great to have gone away to Princeton or Dallas or somebody. And I mean, it would have been fun to go and learn and volunteer somewhere.
Right.
So I still had a context where I could express what I was learning.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that. I worked
See,
full time, went to school full time.
Yeah. See, and what like me, the way I did a lot of my Bible classes and stuff like that, I took on extra projects. Like I would write, if you had to do one paper for a class, I would do the research for 3 or 4 papers because I was a nerd. I mean, I was into it. That's what I liked. But
at the
Yeah.
expense of experiential.
at the expense of experiential,
Don't you think, though, the bottom line is there are amazing youth workers out there, no formal education, undergrad degrees, varying degrees, part-time volunteer. We have amazing youth workers
Right.
all over this spectrum.
Yeah.
Right.
So, does it matter to have a seminary degree? Yes. Is it important?
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Well,
Well,
I think
but
it's
go back to my
Is it
question.
good? Yes.
I think it's important in that.
Just tell
You're-
Duffy you hate him.
No, I think it's important to be educated. Kathy and I had a conversation about
Totally.
this morning because we handed a copy of the book she works out with Marla Christian, and Marla was going, I don't feel like I'm very smart, and Thomas and Kathy was going, Doug's always reading and he's he's a quick learner and that type of thing. We were just talking about the importance of keep learning and so I think if a youth worker has an opportunity to go get a seminary education, absolutely get it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think there's something to be said for just continuing education too. Books, conferences, reading what's out there, listening to what's out there, even like this. This isn't a seminary degree by any means,
Sure it
is.
but it's a good way to stay sharp and get some answers.
Yeah,
and
but
throw-
it's totally different. It's
No, I definitely
there's
agree.
Okay, so here I want to hear from your wisdom since you're so ancient.
Yeah.
It seems like there are people that are saying seminary doesn't prepare you for ministry.
Yeah, but people have been saying
Have
that
they,
for a
that's
long
what
time.
I'm asking. So
yeah.
have they been saying that for a long time?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, when
So that's not- there's
there were
nothing new
pastors who
there.
told me when I was going to Fuller, you're wasting your time. You're not going to learn anything there.
You have to unlearn everything you learned.
Yeah, but that's
Okay,
not true.
okay, I just want to know that.
Don't you think education though just shapes you in a broad sense
Well,
too?
yeah,
Maybe
well,
that
just the
class.
fact
that
you get to
formal
finish
education,
something.
that formal
Sure.
education, because when you say continuing podcast,
Yeah,
books,
yeah.
that's all great, and I think that should be a steady diet of learning youth workers. But there's totally a difference with formal education
Absolutely.
where there's that accountability. You're putting
there's
money on the line.
Money and pressure and
Yeah. And and this is just, if I'm totally honest, I am in a meeting with a guy a couple weeks ago who's leading one of the ministries at our church, and I think to myself, he was talking about some issues where I thought, a little discipline could change that. And then I thought to myself, he didn't go to college. Now, I know that's biased. I'm being totally honest here, but there is a discipline to finishing college. Like when Tori right now, my daughter, is in college, I really don't care what grade she's getting, but the discipline of
Well, you're a little bit more disciplined if you get better grades. Just kidding.
the going to class, lectures,
right.
turning papers in,
It makes you
navigating
a
that
different
whole
person.
social environment as well as the formal education part.
Ooh, you're supposed to navigate the social environment at school?
I did a funeral
Oh.
yesterday, and one of the ladies there who spoke for a few minutes at the service, she had her undergrad from Princeton, her graduate from Northwestern, her MBA degree, and she was so sharp. Like 2 minutes of conversation with her, I was like, this woman has a strong education.
Yeah.
So that's just interesting. It shapes who you are, and it was obvious in her case. And youth workers, don't you think youth workers would always benefit from that? Don't you think, to have a stronger foundation?
Well, yeah,
of
and I think
expanded vision. and,
again, I'm biased. I want to raise the level of youth ministry,
Right.
so that we think more about why we do what we do, and
Yeah, if you want to be stupid, don't go to school.
there you go. Now, here's the deal.
that was quite a conversation.
I've
I was
got
a
to
little
be at
fired up
Rick's
there.
house in 5 minutes.
Okay.
He probably lives 10 to 15 minutes away. I'm going to be
Text
late
DC
as it is.
Text DC.
No, I don't. I'll be late. It's not. The question is.
He's watching probably anyhow, so it's no
Yeah.
big deal.
he follows our youth ministry. Do you guys want to take a couple questions and keep going?
Well, I think me and Griff should just keep going strong.
Yeah, we're going to
Okay.
keep debating seminary here while
Okay.
you go.
Well, let me.
Yeah.
Why don't I
Do
give
you have a question you want me I haven't done a
Well,
question forever.
we
on
could do
my-
two live questions and call it a day too. And you want one for much better than more than dodgeball?
Do you want to pick one of these? Much better than more than
Yeah.
dodgeball, and
Uh-huh.
then put everything back in that folder.
Okay.
Oh boy.
And then Josh,
Yes.
are you going back to the church office?
Yes.
Would
Oh,
you
I
put
like
this on my
this one.
desk?
Yes,
Okay.
I will.
So you pick one after the show and put it on much better than more than dodgeball.
Okay.
And for those
Ladies
new
and gentlemen,
listening,
Doug Fields with his
He
graduate
has
degree is
now
leaving.
left the building.
yeah,
And I mean,
leaving two
I have to
guys.
leave you lower educated people.
Nadeem, do you have a graduate degree?
I don't.
Then you're welcome to stay.
That's right.
Okay, so you're going to answer 2 live questions.
2 live questions. We'll pick one out.
I'm
and
gonna
call it
go.
a day. Okay.
Does
All
it
right.
matter that the seminary class I flunked was evangelism and discipleship?
Now, did you flunk it because you didn't try?
It's a long story. You're supposed to put together
that means yes.
You're supposed to put together lessons on evangelism. Right. And so I
I'm
put
sorry.
together. I gave him curriculum that I wrote on myself, on my own, by myself, but 2 years
Turns out it
earlier.
was plagiarized.
And it wasn't in the form that he wanted. And
Oh.
so I said, "Hey, I wrote this myself, but it's not in the form you want." He's like, "Did you change it after this class?" And I said, "Well, I couldn't lie to him
Yeah.
because I didn't." And he's like, "So you learned nothing in this class to add to this curriculum?" And I just was quiet, and I guess silence told him that I didn't really learn that much.
Is that
Oh,
true? Or
wow.
you just-
Yeah, it was a bad class.
His
I
fault, your
flunked.
fault.
Um,
Let's
both.
say his.
Both.
Let's just say his.
yeah. no, he
Okay,
was a
so you
moron.
pick a question, blog on it. You'll put
Great.
it on my desk.
Great.
Blessings, everybody. See you next week.
Have fun.
Gotta go.
Say
Okay.
hi to my good buddy R-Dub.
Come up with that exit
If
strategy.
he needs me, he'd give me a call. Maybe I'll answer.
He needs you.
See ya. All right. Who wants to sit in Doug's chair?
Yeah.
Hey, Doug. Oh, don't you go. We'll take care of it. Don't worry.
Oh, we still have 15
Here
minutes.
we go.
Oh,
Over control,
Here, scoot
lady.
over. Scoot over. Come on.
Oh,
it's
this
our
is gonna
show
be
now.
great.
This is
No,
us.
we're good. They can see me.
No, they can't actually.
Yeah, I can see
You're like
myself
hidden
right
in the
there.
shadow.
Well, I got a big
Okay,
shadow.
what do we got?
Hey, Doug and friends and the guy that carries the show.
Not Doug anymore.
How great is that?
Your friend, I'm the guy that carries the show.
It must be, since you won the bet.
I like it.
I'm trying to figure out how to make our student ministry visible to the rest of the church. This is a great question for you. I get the sense that not many people. Did that sound mean? I'm
No,
trying
it
to
was
give you a
good.
compliment.
I was excited
Okay,
about it.
good.
It was a very backhanded comment.
No, it wasn't
I'm
backhanded.
kidding. I'm kidding. Keep
Okay.
going.
Okay. I mean, I'll be mean, but
Please.
yeah. I get the sense that not too many people know what it is we do That's an italics do, by the way. Not many people know what it is that we do in student ministries. They see teenagers walking around, so they know that we at least have some coming to our church. But the church at large is ignorant about the purpose of the student ministry.
How do
What
we
are some
raise our
ways you
visibility?
all would suggest making the purposes and the programs of the student ministry consistently visible to the rest of the church? Thanks for your insight. So you all, obviously the guy comes from Detroit, where you were.
Y'all. Awesome. Well, what would you say to that?
Well, it says buy my book at Amazon.com.
His book?
Yep.
Well, maybe he should answer the question.
Yeah.
That's
what?
awesome.
I'm not even going to say his name because that blatant. Just kidding. Sean Cowlich.
Send us a book and I'll read it.
It's called Upwellings.
Maybe I won't.
What's an upwelling? Is that a like a
That would be
spring?
like a refuel kind of. No, like a spring. Yeah, water comes forth. All right, we better get going on the show, or we're going to lose people.
Well,
Actually, they're
here's
probably
his-
already gone.
No, they're not. Here's his quote, though. I hope they never find out that lightning has a lot of vitamins in it, because do you hide or not?
Wow.
Wow, Sean.
Buy his book,
we got
guys.
some. You got some synapses that are not firing for that last quote. You
That's
got to clean
funny.
that up a little bit. So, what are some ways you make it visible to the whole church?
Well, some of the things that we've just started to do recently, a couple of things is one, we've put some youth ministry stuff in the adult services bulletin.
Right.
And we have some screens that will scroll announcements. We put that up there. We're actually doing a handout in the bulletin the next couple of weeks, which is going to be fun. So as far
Wow.
as print pieces are concerned, pretty visible there. We actually just started a parent newsletter, which we haven't done and maybe forever, but at least a long time.
No, we never hit that
So
one.
it's once a month. It goes to a whole bunch of families that are adults in our church, and so that feel like we just don't communicate super well with parents.
Yep.
So we're gonna raise the visibility and give them some, ideas and how to help them and create some synergy between what we're teaching and what they're teaching at home.
Cool.
So giving them some discussion questions, a devotional.
Yep,
We even have a
yep.
couple movie reviews in it, which is fun, just so you know what's going on in the culture. So
That's good.
so those are probably the biggest ones that we're doing right now.
Cool.
In addition to some other things too, we've obviously, we put out signs and we advertise our series. When the sex series went out, we sent a newsletter out saying, "Hey, we're doing a sex series.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
want to be very visible right now because we know we're going to talk about something that's pretty intense." So,
Totally.
so those
No,
have
that's
helped.
pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. I'd say, before all that, this is something you would do naturally, but because I'm simple-minded, I would say before that you have to take some time to think, what are the messages that you want to
That
communicate?
you want to send, yeah.
And you got to narrow it down to, here's the 5 things or the 3 things, and
Yeah.
because you don't want to communicate everything, because then it's going to be too complicated and too detailed, and
Yeah.
so you really need to focus your message, I would say. But yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, well, we do some celebration things too, where if we go on a big mission trip, we come back and we have maybe a highlight video or even it's something as simple as having a youth worker be on stage in the adult services.
Right.
And saying, "Hey, we're having a baptism this week," or "I'm the high school pastor, and I just want to let you know we're glad you're here in church today. If you're a high school student or the parent of a high school student in the audience, we'd love to have you at our student ministry." So part of it is just visibility, literal visibility, like in front of people. Good work.
That's cool. That's cool.
I feel like the web has a huge piece in that too that we don't really do very well.
Yeah.
But I'd love it if the web could be an open door to
Yeah.
our ministry. I went to it's called the Tardy Cast. It's a podcast that Mariners Church puts
Yes.
on, and they upload their student sermons every week. And I thought that's cool. Like
That is cool.
that isn't necessarily raising the visibility to a lot of people, but the people that are looking for it could really find exactly what their students are getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's cool. Well, here's a detailed question.
Okay.
It's not heavy, like emotionally heavy.
All right.
Should we save that for next week?
Yeah, you want to do a live question
Yeah,
and then
live
call it a day?
questions are good.
Here's a good one for you.
Why do you want to call it a day, dude? This is great. We're getting. Oh, there's only 3 minutes left, or is that from last
that's
one?
from last
That's last week.
Well, we're actually getting through some material here. We're being helpful. This is
Yeah.
nice. We should have our own podcast.
We should go get some corn
There's
dogs somewhere.
We've got 10 minutes or 2 hands left. One of the
Two hands.
Um,
Maybe that means stop. All right,
Cool.
what's the next question? Or Nadim, you had one.
Yeah, hold on, I just jumped off the screen. Hold on 1 second.
You got one
Okay,
too?
what do you do when you inherit a team leader or staff member you don't have confidence in? Do you push them in good faith, or do you try to give them harder tasks to kind of show them the door?
So you come in new to a ministry and you've got an existing team, and one of those people is a dork.
Exactly.
Great.
Yeah,
What do you do?
don't. He says you don't have trust in them. That's a good one. That's a great question.
Yeah, it is.
I think the first thing you do, because you just said walk in the door, so I'm assuming that there's not any history. But no matter where you are at in the equation there, I think you have to take time to get to know that person
Yeah.
well.
Observation. Yeah.
Get to know that person well. I think engage your imagination and treat them as if they were a good friend. And what would you do if you had a good friend that you lost confidence in? What would you do to that? I think that a lot of relational conflict and a lot of confusion that happens with, well, what do I say to this person, or how do I handle that, or what do I do with that? I think that if you take that confusion and you say, I'm going to look at it with a different filter and say, what would I do if this person was my really good friend? Now, maybe they're not good friends. Maybe you can't stand the person. Maybe
Yeah.
the personality conflict.
Is a
You would
big
never
piece of
be
that
great
issue,
friends.
yeah.
But what would you do to someone who's a great friend? I think that we have to assume that God's not telling a lie when he says that everybody can make a difference and everybody can contribute and everybody,
Absolutely.
some people are an eye and a finger and a toe, and so there is something that person can do well. They can do great, they can shine. Now, maybe it's not on your team. Maybe it's not, and that's okay. But if you're more concerned about who that person is as an individual, as a friend, as somebody growing closer to Christ every day,
Yeah.
if you're more concerned about that than you are getting a team player to be effective, things will become very, very clear very, very quick.
Absolutely. I think you do have to give them a fair chance. There has to be a period of observation where you get to know them, you see them in action, and you need to. Once that period has been expired, I don't know how long that is, a few months even.
Yeah.
Then you start to make some observations about who they are and share those with that person. Here's my observation. Here's my expectation.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't think they're matching up right now. So let's have this tough conversation and let me gently push you and encourage you in the right direction. Treat you like a friend and a brother. I like that.
Yep.
But also you have to do some of that boss work as well. I mean, that's no fun, but
You got to be a leader,
You have
and
to. And that means sometimes pushing people that don't want to be pushed, or we're comfortable with the last leader that was in the system.
It is more difficult to lead friends, but it is better and it is more rich, and there's better things happen for the kingdom that way. When I was in high school, my small group leader, this guy named Scott Wickham, there was this person in our every year we went down to Mexico for a week and then came back, and there was this person in our group, and she was in our group every year, and she was in the youth ministry and all that stuff. Very annoying person.
Yeah.
I remember she really loved New Kids on the Block, and that was one of the many things.
The
that just
reunion
annoyed-
is coming back soon.
That's
Yeah.
right. But
Oh.
she annoyed everybody. She's just one of those social. Like, I'm
Yeah.
a social outcast, but I only bother people who talk to me.
Right.
She bothers everybody, and
Just total draining,
and
like to die.
yeah. And so I remember saying to my small group leader Scott, I go, so what do you do? And he said the same thing. He said, get to know them,
Yeah.
get to know who they are. And it was crazy because she drove me crazy. But I spent time, asking her questions, asking her about her family and what she was into and all that stuff. And empathy develops, and you get to see strengths and you see weaknesses, and you can capitalize on the strengths when that happens. I mean, I've done that time and time again through the years.
Do you think
Always works.
Do you think the question is leading though a little bit towards how do I get rid of this person, or don't you think that's the end game?
Well,
here? Is,
that
okay,
was
I've
kind
done-
of do you give them heavy things so that they fail?
Right, I've
If
observed
you-
them, I've encouraged them, I've pointed them in the right direction, I've shared my expectations with them. They're still not delivering. We're still not connecting. Now what do we do?
If you give somebody a huge responsibility knowing that they're going to fail, you are
Not a good leader.
total jerk. I mean, that's like, unless their heart is so hard and you have done everything you can to try and soften that and communicate and get to know them, unless in the extreme circumstances where someone is just such a colossal jerk,
Right. They're
that
not
you
even
need to force them to fail. But that is, I've never even had that in a ministry setting.
right. And if anybody would have, it would be you.
Yes. Oh, I mean, I believe that there's times when
Well, and you could
conflict that you
let
do
people
that.
fail and things like that, but you don't want to set someone up to intentionally fail to give you reason to kick them out.
Yeah,
That would be
that's what the
preposterous.
Mormons say that God did in the beginning of creation. that God gave people a choice knowing that they were going to choose wrong.
Right.
And that is such a horrible picture of God that's so inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And that for us to lead like that, yeah.
So give the person a fair shake. Give them the gift of time and friendship.
Yeah, I mean, and be concerned about them. If you're concerned about making them better, and by making them better, I mean they know God better. If your concern is to minister to that heart over and above having a great productive ministry, that'll lead.
Do you think, though, it's interesting, like success for me, I know what success is for me. It's going 100% all the time,
Right.
pushing very, very hard. I feel like my capacity is higher than a lot of people for whatever reason.
Right. People
Probably
have different
arrogant, but
capacity.
whatever. But I think that's a good realization that people have different capacity. 100% for me is 200% for some people. And someone probably will way outshine me too. But
Yeah.
But I think we sometimes push people so hard to meet us where we are.
And
This
you know
go
what? If
get
God
'em
wanted them to be
visionary.
like you, then they would be like
They
you.
would be, and they're not.
Right.
So I think it's unfair to put our unrealistic expectations of ourselves even on them, and just realize they might be very different from you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should be afraid of someone being different.
And if you're concerned about somebody as a person rather than what they produce, and it's time to move them off the team, you could look them in the eye with integrity, not with a silver tongue, and say, you know what, you need to move on. And this is the best thing for you. It's
Right.
not just the best thing for our ministry, but this is the best thing for you. And let me
Right.
tell you
in
why
order
this
for
is
you
the
to
best
grow,
thing.
this is what has to happen.
And you could say that, and you could give reasons, and it's true, and your heart's pure, and it's time to go.
And then you don't have to make up stuff or have an ugly conversation where you know you're not being
or
totally
be
honest.
smooth and slick and silver-tongued.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, that's good.
but personality wins in our world. People skills win, and so does the silver tongue. So if you want to do that, go ahead.
It's
And
always
a little
tough
bit
to
easier,
beat.
and you won't have to.
And you don't have to worry about the truth, the inconvenience of truth.
That's right.
Any more questions? We should wrap it up. What do you think, man?
I'm so hungry.
Do you wanna
We
go
need
to
eat right now?
Wiener Schnitzel Outback?
No way. Outback?
I
Maybe.
could do Outback.
I don't know.
I have an hour.
Cool.
All right. Well, everybody, thanks for
Thanks,
listening
you
to show
guys. The show is so much better
79,
without Doug. Please,
78.
please.
80?
Wow.
Show 80.
What's that? 80.
I don't know. It feels like a lot of shows to me.
Oh, this is show number 80. I thought
Oh,
it was 80
sorry.
minutes. I was
No,
like, oh.
show 80.
Perfect.
Yeah, so if you want a book, a free book, refuel, advanced copy, you can't have one.
You can't have one.
Sorry.
Okay.
All
Send
right.
us your questions.
See you next week.
We love
see
you
him?
very
Will we
much.
see him next week?
As much as you can love through the internet.
Exactly. Internet love from Matt and Josh.
Love and love.